Flosstube. It's Arlene here. It is Friday, June 21st of 2024, and I know it's been a while. Over the last few years, I think I've sort of fallen into a routine of a Flosstube video about once a month without like having a clear date, on the first of the month or anything. And I know it's been probably over 2 months at this point, if not longer. It's been on my mind for weeks now. A little check-in with my Flosstube world. It hasn't happened for a number of reasons. Partially, a lot of the stitching I've been doing has just been my own models coming up for the Needlework Marketplace, which will be happening in August. And as I've talked about before, when that's my predominant stitching and I want to wait until those things are done, sometimes it's hard to say what can I share on a video. I have a few things, so I don't think this is going to be super long. As always, you'll know because you'll see the time right now. It's also not going to be super long because it is hot today. I'm in New Jersey. Wherever you are in the world, certainly a huge part of this country is in a heat wave, certainly on the East Coast here. I don't know about you people in Australia. I hope you're enjoying your hot chocolate and blankets right now. So I'm up in my loft area and, heat rises. It's always warmer up here. And I have an overhead fan, which normally makes it fine, especially because I'm sitting like almost underneath it. However, it makes noise. And I knew I should turn it off for a video. So I'm already starting to get warm. So let me make sure I can get through what I wanted to share with you today before I completely lose it up here. So, again, life things happening. My college reunion happened in May, and I was involved on the planning committee and so on. And I realized how that took over a fair amount of life in a good way, absolutely in a good way. But there were huge chunks of time where I felt like, have I even been on IG to look at stitching stuff today? I'll almost always stitch every night, but even what I was working on was not really grabbing me much. That reunion happened on Memorial Day weekend, and so certainly I'm like, June, all right, back into stitching world a little bit more. The last couple of weeks, or week and a half or so at this point, I hurt my leg last week. Don't ask me how, because I don't know. Just muscle, whatever strain, and it's much better now. It's still not completely there, but just sitting and trying to find a comfortable position, trying to walk, trying to do sort of normal day-to-day stuff was really thrown off. And I can't really explain it. Like sitting on the couch to this point, I'm not comfortable sitting on the couch. Up here where I am, this is a table, and the chair that I'm sitting at is a little bit lower than my chairs, the chair I'll sit at downstairs, just like eating at the table. And so this has been the most comfortable spot. It's been really weird. And all that I wanted to say is that it has really thrown me off. And I know different people have different aspects of their life where something happens and you don't even realize what a difference it's made in your life. But that has been me and my leg this week and a half. But like I said, it's been on my mind to come in and check in with my Flosstube community. So speaking of community, in 4 weeks' time, like literally 4 weeks from right now, will be my Stitch NJ retreat. This is the 5th retreat. Yes, my 5th retreat, although I always sort of like 7, because I did plan 2 that, got to a certain point in the planning and canceled in 2020 and in 2021. But the last few years have been great, and I am really excited. A lot of my time recently has been working on retreat things in all kinds of ways. And I'm going to wait to share most of the retreat stuff with you, either a video right before, certainly a video right after. There are certain things that if you have been around, certainly if you've attended my retreats, that it shouldn't surprise folks to know that this is my bag from last year. Oops, the bag I gave out last year. And it's sort of like a point of pride. I want to make sure that what I'm giving to my attendees is something good, So I get these, a pretty decent quality canvas bag. Every year I do a logo. This was the one from last year. and then I'll use that in various ways. And so all of that work has been in the background. I've been collecting things that will go in the bags. And I'm excited to share all of that with folks. There is a piece I did want to share with you today just because it's a fun little thing. So as you could see from this bag, and if I were to parade the other bags over the years, starting the first year I did this, there was like a color theme, for lack of better words. I've changed the logo. Each year there's a special and unique logo. For those of you who are familiar with StitchCon, that StitchCon logo, they might add the year each year, but it's a consistent logo. And when you talk about like brand design and stuff like that, that makes sense. I just had never done that because I like making a new one each year. But I have been fairly consistent in sticking with a red color theme. And that came from the first couple of years, it was called the New Jersey Flosstube Retreat. And that's when, Flosstube just was so much bigger in my world, and it was a great opportunity to meet and interact with people that I started meeting online through Flosstube World. I realized over the years, certainly post-COVID, during COVID, that a stitching retreat is much bigger than who watches videos, who comments on videos, who makes videos, and that's where the name shifted to Stitch NJ. But at the beginning, when there was this connection to Flosstube/YouTube, if you think about the YouTube brand logo, there's red in there. And so that's how I had adopted red from the very beginning. So I think each year you could say I've added in something new, keeping most of the things that have worked well and people have enjoyed. A new piece this year was proposed by a friend of mine. So Crafty Kim, I don't think she's done video in a while, but you certainly can find her on Instagram. I'll link her below. Does amazing stitching in all kinds of ways and has also been making up project bags. Last year at the retreat, I had a vending day where people could sell what they wanted, and so she had made a bunch of project bags. She probably had been making project bags for a number of years before then. But so she proposed to me this idea, well, because we had seen it being proposed at another retreat that is happening later this summer, having the word we decided on, commemorative project bag. And I kind of like that idea. And then she said, well, and maybe we could even pair it with a design, a pattern. And I was like, this is kind of cool. So she went like shopping for fabric, and we were like going back and forth in videos and so on. And then we kind of honed in on this, pulling together a number of things. Red, my love of geometry, her love of geometry, a fabric that just appealed to both of us. And so Kim has been very busy making up project bags that look like this. And again, the red, the black, the white are the colors that I've been using for these years, for this retreat. So then the whole idea really stuck with me because do you see these squares? Now there's basically 4 different squares. So there's one there, that one there, and that one there. And then it just repeats in sort of a random style. Well, that's really appealing to me as a designer. So what did I do? Hold on, gotta get this presentation right. I created 4 biscornus. And can I hold them without them falling off this thing that I found here? And so these are my cross-stitch takes on those 4 squares that are in the fabric. And I stitched them all on a red fabric, so it's just black and white thread. The bottoms are on black thread with red and white thread, just DMC, just Zweigart. And I love the way they turned out, and I love how this goes so well together. So people who are purchasing this commemorative project bag and pattern, and I'm calling it black and white and red all over. Now I know that's a long name, and I'd actually sort of surveyed a few friends, and it's sort of like I just liked it for the cleverness of, that joke, what's black and white and red all over, and There's different answers, like a zebra with a rash and something with a newspaper and a few other options. Anyway, so folks who buy the project bag are also going to get the pattern. Now, this pattern is exclusive to Stitch NJ. Now, I'm a teacher, and I always love to take moments to share something that maybe not everyone knows. And there may be the majority of you watching this video are like, yeah, I know what that is, but there's always a chance that someone doesn't. And the story I take it back to in Flosstube world is very early on. When I discovered Flosstube, there were lots of Flosstubers mentioning this Facebook group called Stitch Mania. And it's been closed, it's not around anymore, but Stitch Mania, oh my gosh, everyone's talking about it. I want to join, I want to see what's going on there. I, for the life of me, could not find it on Facebook. And I was so confused because it had to be a large group, and nothing I was coming up with was large. And then, I don't know, maybe a month after first hearing people talk about it, somebody made the comment that it was Stitch Mania like the month of May. And that's what I think was the origin of this group. It was the group that started, hey, let's all go crazy in May and stitch Project Every Day or whatever it is. Stitch Mania, spelled M-A-Y-N-I-A. And sure enough, that was the name of the group. And the fact that Facebook could not get me there. Like I'm sure a general Google search, well, who knows? Anyway, it's stories like that I want to take a moment that if I know something that in the stitching world that I think there's a chance some people don't, then I want to share it. So, and it has to do with the word exclusive. And the best story to tell is as someone who has exhibited at Nashville. The first year I was exhibiting, there was like a new exhibitors, Zoom, and get all your questions answered. Wonderful. And that I was there was the first time I had heard the phrase Nashville exclusive. Now I think about the word exclusive. I think about, exclusive opportunity, a special opportunity, one time only. And I was confused because people talked about Nashville exclusives, and I thought that meant, well, you can buy it at Nashville and that's it. Because to me, that's what the word exclusive meant in according to the dictionary. And then it was clarified for me. No, if you're doing something like that as a designer at Nashville, it's called a limited edition, and not that many designers do that for lots of reasons. But a Nashville exclusive simply means that it is only being sold at Nashville for a certain period of time. And there isn't even a hard and fast rule. 4 to 6 weeks is sort of what I've heard. And after that point, it is available in any number of ways that a designer might send it to Hoffman the distributors or send it out to their, post it on Etsy store, whatever. And so the dictionary definition of exclusive is different than the Stitcher's World version of exclusive, in my mind. And again, most of you probably already know this, but because I didn't know it at one time, I'm just sharing. So for me to say that the pattern for these biscornus is exclusive for the Stitch NJ retreat, it will be available. People who are purchasing the project pattern together will have it. I will also make it available during the vending day that on Saturday for a few hours we sell stuff for those who want to. And then it will not be available until the Needlework Marketplace, which will be happening at the end of August. And I haven't completely thought this out, but most years I have done what a lot of designers do to encourage stores to participate to make my designs exclusive for Needlework Marketplace, meaning you can't get them through me, through my Etsy store, or from Hoffman or for about 4 to 6 weeks. So my plan with this is that this will become one of my Needlework Marketplace's releases in August. But it will be an opportunity for those attending Stitch NJ to purchase it then. Each of these biscornus is a 35 by 30, well, yeah, the margins, I think it's like 39 by 39. So small, quick, easy, fun to stitch up. I don't have that much experience stitching on black fabric. There's a reason why there won't be that much more experience stitching on black fabric. I mean, you know the drill. Lots of good lighting. Put something white underneath your stitching if you can. Luckily, as you can purposely see, I was not stitching much on the black. So there you go, a little sneak peek. of something for Stitch NJ. And a number of people have already ordered. And part of the proceeds, Kim and I decided, are going to be are being donated to Save, which is a local no-kill animal shelter. And it is the animal shelter that receives all the money we raise through the raffle tickets, which is just so wonderful to support an organization that literally needs it during the summertime. I'll talk more about that at another time. So there you go. That is a little bit of stitching to share with you. Speaking of stitching and the retreat in combo, one of the things sort of on my stitch to-do list coming up soon, too late now. The last few retreats, one of the things that I put on the raffle table is I've made necklaces that I stitch on 56 count over 1 and make a necklace. And I do plan to do that again this year. And I need to check my sort of like jewelry making supplies if I need to order some new things. The thread that I should have worn one of those necklaces, because I have some that I've made for myself. It's just that I've also made them for the raffle table. And they've been, like high appeal. So if it makes people buy more raffle tickets, which is a donation to the animal shelter, I'll spend the time making them. When I first got 56 count fabric, and I was like, and this idea of stitch over 1, it's like, what thread do you use? And long story short, partially because of my knowledge of lace threads, I started stitching with YLI Silk 100. You can see it, it's like finer than a typical sewing thread. Like you could see that it is finer than a sewing thread. It's not easy to find. I think I got 2 spools at a quilting store. This year, after last summer, I know. I'd gone to a quilt convention kind of thing. It was like in September, just walked around the displays, enjoyed the thing. I'm not a quilter. I don't need the fabric and all the excitement of that. But there was a vendor who was selling a bunch of YLI silks. And I was like, I only had 3. I think I had these 3, black, red, and dark navy blue. And I know I bought a few from that vendor that were just like, and who knows what more I think I bought these 4. And then I remember coming home and going on the YLI website and discovering, they have variegated threads. And I was able to find a quilt store, I don't remember where, online, that had the variegated ones. And so I purchased these 4. And so when I go to sit down to work on designs for the necklace, I'm going to explore. I don't know what these will look like stitched up. I love like monochrome over-dyed threads, and that's what these basically are. So we'll see. We'll see what I end up creating. I'll be sharing it with you guys. I was thinking this morning, that's creeping up on my to-do list to make those necklaces, that I wonder if I can adapt the designs I did for the biscornos. Obviously, I'm not stitching them in black and red, but if there's a way for me to play off of that in terms of size and adding in some more, we'll see. We'll see. But again, I will share with you when I have those to share. Okay. Another project that I am currently, I have one project that I'm hoping to finish within the next week or so. It's one of the, it's a design that'll be out for Needlework Marketplace. And, I bet most stitchers must be like that and be like, you get to a project, you're like, it's fine, it's good, I want it done, but I'm not loving it. And I know many of you have lots of projects going on, and when you're not loving something, you put it aside and you pick up something else, and maybe your love comes back. And when I'm making something that's going to be a design that I plan to put out, and it looks nice. I like I just want to push myself to get it finished. I don't want to put it off. But separate from the necklaces, the next project, which I literally just this morning went out to well, running errands, and one of them was stopping at Michael's to get some DMC thread. So I just thought I would show you, without showing the pattern, what is coming up next in my design world. So this is charcoal gray, Zweigart charcoal gray. These threads, now you might say, Arlene, the black is not going to show up well on charcoal gray. No, but everywhere that's black in my design is surrounded by other colors, so it's fine. And there is, I can't wait to share the story that goes with this design. So this one, it's like, as of this moment, I'm excited to get started with this, which I'm hoping is going to keep the motivation going for finishing the one that I want to finish before I allow myself to start this one. But I'm so glad I wrote notes here. Speaking of which, I was surveying some stitching friends on a question, and there's no right or wrong answer here. What in your stitching mind defines a small project, a medium project, a large project? Meaning what stitch counts? Because I know as a designer, I've stitched some pretty large designs, and I know that while there's great appeal for those in a lot of ways, there's also a lot of appeal for smaller designs. And I feel like comfortable in what those extremes might be, but I was trying to figure out what do you call a medium project? And a friend of mine wrote out something, it was in our group, and then a lot of people agreed with it. 100 by 100 or less, she called small. 100 by 100 until 200 by 200 would be medium. And, wait, did I get that right? And anything over 200 by 200 is large. I think I've got that right. Because, and that was confirming for me, because this project, the ones I just showed you with the DMC threads, is going to be about 150 by 150, and I knew that was not a small project. I just wondered where it fell under some folks' definition of medium project. And once again, how far am I into this video? And I forgot to, no, this is as good as time as any. As a thank you for people coming back, again, when you're gone for a couple of months on Flosstube, and there's so many Flosstubers to watch, so many ways to kind of get your stitching fix while you're stitching usually. But just as a thank you, I wanted to do a giveaway today. And I meant to announce this much earlier, but this is what happens when you look at your notes now and not 10 minutes in. So if you are interested in winning a copy of any of my patterns, you will get to choose. You can do PDF or paper copy. I can't ship out paper copy international, but I'm happy to mail out paper copy in the US and PDF either way, any pattern you want. And again, it's just like a thank you for being here. And so here's what, you have two options to comment something. I would love to know if you agree with what a medium project counts for. Is a 150 by 150 project a medium? Is it a large medium? Is it a small medium? Anything you could comment on about what you think a medium project is to you. It will vary. It will absolutely vary. And if you are someone that just has no desire or care or anything about sizes, tell me what your favorite fabric is to stitch on. Like, especially if you have a particular color of a fabric, whether it's a charcoal gray Zweigart or whether it's a specific, fiber on a whim, such and such, if you have a favorite fabric. Because I am on the lookout for I've been exploring a lot of fabrics for some designs that'll be coming up later this year. And I'm always on the lookout to hear what other people like. So there we go. Giveaway. Totally in the wrong order, but that's okay. I did want to share with you, if I can, there it is. I'll use this. For those who've been around for a while, in addition to cross stitch, I do other kinds of needlework. In addition to needlework, I do lace making. I do bobbin lace, although I will fully admit it has definitely taken a way back seat in the last few years. And I also do tatting, which does not happen very much. But in the last few months, mostly due to a couple of travel things, it's such a portable craft. So it's not something I'll go to regularly, but I just wanted to share with you that I'd finished this little tatted piece. and it's a finish. It's not a stitching finish. There are two ways to tat. One is shuttle tatting and one is needle tatting. There's all different kinds of shuttles, but these are the shuttles. This is a project in the works, and you can see that if all you need to do is carry around this and a piece of paper that's your pattern, it's a really portable craft. So I'm a self-taught tatter. And I even taught myself before, like YouTube. So am I going to be the expert out there? No. I did at one point try to understand needle tatting, and I just couldn't do it, even though, and the reason I did is because I had read that, whether or not you agree with it, that supposedly needle tatting is easier than shuttle tatting. But if I was doing fine with my shuttles, I was like, well, what's so good about needle tatting? And I just didn't get the swing of it, which is perfectly fine. So there we go, a little tatted finish. This comes from, it's either this book or the other book. John Youssef, I forget whether that's a male or female, published these books, and a few years ago. I don't know if there's been anything new. There is a website, like here, these are freebies, so I can show you what a tatting pattern might look like. What I love about the designs in here is that, so this is from a website. Again, it's a freebie. Here's a picture. Here's written out words, which, depending, I can usually follow. But what I love is when there's a diagram that looks like this, because that I can interpret that diagram easier to me than interpreting the words. If you have any interest in tatting, do some Googling, check out, see what's out there. It's a whole world. It's not going to be a world as big as cross stitch, but like anything else, you can find websites and Facebook groups and something when you want to learn something new. And that's how it started with me, wanting to learn something new. All right, the last thing on my list is about 2-3 weeks ago, in the space of 1 week, I saw 3 different exhibits related to needlework that I wanted to share with you. So a few months back, I started to see, I can't tell you where, Facebook groups, postings, I don't remember, about an exhibit that was going to be opening at the DAR Museum, Daughters of the American Revolution, in Washington, D.C., called Sewn in America, Making Meaning Memory. And it did seem like their sewing was going to involve like clothes, but it was also going to involve like quilts and stitching. And, the descriptions I saw intrigued me. And when I know that a museum is going to be putting out an exhibit catalog, to me that makes it a significant exhibit, if that makes sense. I don't know. You can go on the website and look back at previous exhibits, and this just really appealed to me. So I had in the back of my mind, well, if I get and I think this is going to be there till the fall, like October or something. I remember thinking, if I get myself to DC over the next few months, I'd like to see that. Well then, not that long after that, I started to see, posted, whatever, about a quilt exhibit that was going to be opening at the American Art Museum, which is one of the Smithsonian museums, called Pattern and Paradox, the Quilts of Amish Women. And the fact that there were these 2 exhibits in Washington, D.C., I was like, you know what? I want to make this happen. I'll come back to this in a moment. But I think I talked about, probably in my last video, that this March, I went down to the D.C. area to go to Woodlawn. I was just there for a day, and I figured out, for lack of better words, last fall, when there was that amazing exhibit at the Baltimore Museum of Art, I was like, I don't want to drive. Could I just get on a train? And it was about a 2-hour train ride. And I was like, I could do, and if you do it at certain times a day, it could be really cheap. So for Woodlawn, I wanted to try that. Okay, it's almost 3 hours. What difference will that be? Let me see. And it was okay. So it's now planted in my mind that taking a day trip to Washington, D.C., from where I am in New Jersey, is not an impossibility. And again, I was getting on a train like at 6 in the morning, and I forget, I wasn't crazy late, but I mean, I think I spent like $40 for a round trip ticket, which is literally to get into York City almost costs that much these days. Anyway, so I went to the Dar Museum first, saw that exhibit, enjoyed it, whatever, did a little bit of walking around, and then made my way to the American Art Museum. So, quilting in general sort of has definitely a lot of appeal to plenty of stitchers. The Amish quilts have a lot of appeal to me. So, I think it's been mentioned here. For many years, I was teaching at a school that did this special week in February where the whole middle school kind of broke up into different groups and kids studied something intensively, for lack of better words, for a week, something that would not normally be part of their curriculum. And there was a couple things that would fall under, let's say, cultural focus, and one of them was the Amish. We are less than 3 hours, probably closer to 2 hours from Lancaster County in Pennsylvania. And for many, like built up, there's a whole longer story, but built up over the number of years is a wonderful friendship of our school, of the people who've run this mini week, it's called, with an Amish family. And it's very different to go to an area and show kids what it's really like when an Amish family gets you into a one-room schoolhouse that is not a tourist attraction. It is literally kids, this is how they go to school. And what an eye-opening experience that is for our middle school, New Jersey, typical students. And one piece of that week that I was involved in, so there's a couple days spent at school and then a couple days on the trip. And we try to introduce the students to different aspects of the Amish culture, the Amish world. One of them is quilting. So I ran a, like rotation workshop where I was teaching kids to quilt on a very basic level. And I spent my week threading needles and tying knots and doing it. And I could say over the years, many students finished their little pillow project. Because of that, I've always had this interest in the Amish quilts, in the way their simplicity, their practicality in terms of like using old clothing and so on. And so it was really appealing to me to go and see this exhibit. And this book, this exhibition catalog, like so many other exhibition catalogs, has all kinds of interesting essays and things to share about it. And I think I figured this out before I even went. So this exhibit is coming about because these major collectors of Amish quilts, Faith and Stephen Brown, have donated their. I've seen it they are quilts that have been on exhibit at other times in other places over the last, I don't know, couple of decades. And I think I even saw one of their exhibits some other time, at some exhibit of their quilts at some other point. But they have now, I'm assuming they're older and they're doing things like this, trying to find a permanent home. And this is a true American art, the Amish in America. So they've donated their entire collection, and I don't know if this is now a permanent exhibit space. I think they're going to like rotate out because there's so many, they can't put them all on display at once. But it was very cool to be there. I recognize a lot of the information that's posted about the Amish, about the meanings of things and so on. And just, I really enjoyed it. And, something else I was going to say about that. Oh, I know. So I just wanted to share with you a couple of things, well, one thing in particular from this book. So this is an example to me of sometimes you just got to see it. Because I'm going to show you a picture, which I think is amazing, but even that much more amazing when you're there. So most of the quilts were on the wall. There were a few that were laying down, and there were a few that were sort of hanging in the middle areas that you could purposely see both sides. And so this was one of them. Very simple Amish quilts, almost always solid colors, almost always, I want to say drab colors, but not really bright, because the fabric they use is basically the same fabric they use for their clothing. And they don't wear bright colors. And again, I having Amish friends and know the culture, there's a lot of variation in everything, but to me, to my eyes, these are Amish colors. So it's a reversible quilt, and you can see the design is simple. Now, I don't know if you can see well the amazing quilting, like the stitching between. Luckily, they gave a giant close-up picture. I mean, this is all hand done. The Amish, basically will hand do everything. And just to, be in an appreciation of an exhibit like this. And again, because I have this background knowledge and like to make these connections with myself. The Sewn in America exhibit was wonderful. Like I said, there was a lot of clothes. It was about like the history of how sewing has been a part of the United States. Again, going back to what was needed. And then sure enough, as you go through time, you get things like schoolgirl samplers. And when I was posting on IG that day, even made a comment, you can't have an exhibit that involves needles without having a good Westtown sampler. Westtown, I'm not going to be able to find it quickly, is, it still exists. It's a school currently, but it's a Quaker school that's been around for a couple of centuries, and it is very well known for the samplers that have come from the Westtown schools. And the school itself has an amazing archive area where they're acknowledging the importance of their history, particularly when it comes to needlework. So I made this joke how you can't have a good exhibit without a Westtown sampler. So then, a few days after my visit to, where did I put this? DC, I was going up to visit my family that is in Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut. And another thing that I had seen in various postings, Facebook groups, whatever, was about a sampler exhibit that was going to be at the Litchfield Historical Society. And that's north of where I was headed for my family. And it didn't seem like such a major exhibit like the DC ones that I would go out of my way to drive up there for it. But because I was going to be in Connecticut anyway, and it just worked out scheduling wise, you know what? Let me go up there. So at the Litchfield County, has a rich history of schoolgirls, embroideries, samplers. I actually, in addition to this area that had the sampler exhibit, I was learning a lot about Connecticut history that I had never known, even though I grew up in Connecticut. So this woman, Alexandra Peters, is a major collector, particularly of very local, they've lived around here, not here, her area, samplers. And I think it's not like she's donated them, but some of the samplers that were on display were owned by the Litchfield Historical Society. So it was very much a full-on sampler exhibit, and what I loved about this, there's a, I'll link the video if I remember. At the opening of this exhibit in April or so, there was a talk, and they had recorded it because it was also available on Zoom, and I'd watched it, which was enough for me to say, yes, it's worth the extra 45 minutes, whatever I had to do to drive up there. And I'll link that if you're interested, because what I loved about her as a collector is that she was really interested in the stories. Like, speaking of Westtown samplers, who is Kezia Burrow? And the collector has done all the genealogical research that she can. And speaking of Westtown school samplers, when I saw this one on display, again, just 4 days after I'd been in DC, I just kind of laughed to myself. Sure enough, another Westtown school one. So I loved, the samplers are lovely in their own way. I know different people have different thoughts about stitching samplers, loving samplers, what's the point of samplers, the full range. But I appreciate a history and an appreciation of that history, and especially how this collector wanted to share that. So if you're in the area, you might go check that out. And if you're a real sampler person, maybe you have the interest in going out of your way, but it was, anyway, I wanted to share those 3 exhibits with all of you. I heard about them probably by chance, mostly on Facebook, likely, and I just like to share when I hear about something. Maybe it appeals to some of you. Maybe you live in the DC area and you didn't know about either of those DC exhibits. So I'll try to remember to link to the websites of each of these places. All right, there. I didn't have that much stitching to share with you today, but I was glad to share what I could. I'm glad that I can get myself back into this community. Like I said, plenty of stitching going on, plenty of like stitching retreat thinking going on. And hopefully I'll have more things to share with you stitching-wise pretty soon. And again, if you'd like to win one of my patterns, please comment about sizing of patterns, of designs. Specifically, what counts as a medium-sized project in your mind? And if you just have no thoughts on that, then give me a suggestion of a fabric that you like to stitch on. Thank you very much for being here. As always, I know you have so many options to choose from. However you found me, if you're new, if you're a returning person, I really appreciate you being here. Help me out by hitting that like button, because that alone can help bring people to new. I mean, I always, when I'm watching a video, a Flosstube video, like I don't even have to watch 10 seconds in and I'll hit that like button, simply because I know it helps bring more people to that video. So thank you so much. Until next time.